Welcome, everyone. It's the Crypto Lark, and I'm super excited to have back on the show Ray from Paxful. Ray, how's it going?
It's going awesome, man. I'm super excited to be here again. You're one of my favorite people in crypto, man. Seriously.
Thank you so much, Ray. I mean, you do amazing work, but the question we have to address first and foremost, what is that on the wall behind you? Is that a picture of you?
Yes, it is. It was a gift from a friend who's an artist. He found the picture on my Instagram and he gave it to me. And my wife, she hung it up in our apartment.
That's amazing.
I'm not a narcissist, all right?
That's amazing. It's good to start the interview with a laugh, Ray, without a doubt. Now, we're going to be talking about lots of, very serious stuff today, everybody, so be ready. Now, we're talking specifically today about cryptocurrency adoption in Africa. Paxful is at the forefront of the industry in Africa, so that's what we're going to be talking about, and really talking about adoption, the barriers to adoption, all these different things. So let me just come up with this question straight away here. What are your biggest markets right now in Africa?
Okay, our top four markets. The United States is number one still, and then it's Nigeria, fighting neck and neck with the United States usually. And then it's the little Ghana, right next to Nigeria, is number three.
Little tiny
and
Ghana.
India, yeah, is number three, ahead of massive India, number four. But India's growing fast. And then the rest of the top 10, South Africa, Kenya, Tunisia, Indonesia, etc. So Africa is quite prominent in our top 10, and it's only going to be more so prominent. We're actually now looking to have about 3 offices throughout Africa. Wow. So we're really recruiting for those positions right now.
Very, very cool. What are the biggest barriers of people in Africa to getting cryptocurrency, to using cryptocurrency, to merchants accepting it, all these different things? Big question.
Yes, the number one, yeah, it is, and it's actually an easy answer because people come to us looking for Bitcoin, right? They're already convinced at that point that they at least want to start investigating the possibility, right? So they're great to deal with. However, most of the people in Africa, they hear about cryptocurrency and they don't go for it. I predict that I'd say maybe 80% of the people that hear about it stay away from it. Why? Because of the negative press that it's gotten. And also, the MMM scandals, right? Those schemes that came out of Russia, they spread to India, Africa, Nigeria, etc. as well. And a lot of them only take crypto for obvious reasons, right? And so people begin to associate crypto with that. We have to work against that. So the biggest challenge is really education, or just uneducating people from the wrong perception, right? That's always the biggest challenge. And that's the same challenge in the West as well. Because here in the West, we think of cryptocurrency as only being useful for, Silk Road, black markets and speculation. And in truth, that is how crypto started out. However, there are 5 other true use cases of crypto. And Africa is currently ahead of the West and pretty much ahead of everyone else in pushing them. Certain places like Venezuela are ahead of, very into the game with one of the use cases, which is wealth preservation, right? 1 million% projected inflation in Venezuela. Naturally, people are desperate there to preserve their wealth into anything they can. Even volatile Bitcoin is still better than their Bolivar, right? But in Africa, you've seen the same kind of inflation. In Zimbabwe, for example, they still have not recovered from that. Zimbabwe, for those that don't know, switched over to the US dollar a few years ago because they really had no other choice.
Like a lot of countries. It's actually quite a few countries around the world that kind of either directly accept the US dollar as just the thing they do, or it's just like a second layer of the economy.
Exactly. And usually, now it's the primary layer over there. They tried to introduce something called bond notes. It's an experiment with another form of local currency, and that failed as well. So, they're talking about banning the internet. They might have done it already by today, taking it down, etc. So whenever a country's currency comes under attack, tremendous turmoil ensues. It really is the first barrage of warfare. They will go for your money. They will say, hey, the value of the work you did yesterday is now worth 10 times less today. So it's a way for them to just completely destroy an economy and a people, and it's the currency wars, right? We are in the era of the currency wars, and it's not going anywhere. It's only going to grow. Nigeria has an 11% inflation rate. And that's actually gone down. It used to be quite a bit higher, right? And the rest of Africa, they have similar inflation rates. So inflation is rampant across all of Africa. So wealth preservation is a big one, right? I just want to make something clear. Wealth preservation is not only, it's not only fighting inflation. Legitimate investments are also considered wealth preservation, right? Not speculation, legitimate investments. Legitimate ICOs, maybe there were one or two, right? Binance was a legitimate ICO, so there's still some legitimate ones out there. That's wealth preservation. So the big thing about wealth preservation is, you know, people like in working class people are not just going to put their money into something unless they know they can get their money out to do the things they need to do. That single mother who's got 3 kids screaming, right? And she just got paid this morning. She wants to go, and she's immediately going to take whatever money she got and she's going to buy milk, eggs, diapers, right? And then anything left over, she's going to want to put it in something that's going to hold its value throughout the rest of the week or the rest of the month until she gets paid the next time, right? So then when, you know, she wants to know, as it's, you know, held in this asset, how can I get it out? Like, what can I do with it, right? That's the big question. You're not going to get people into Bitcoin or into any kind of, you know, speculative volatile asset unless they know, okay, what are the off-ramps? Once I get it, and that's hard enough to get it, what can I do with it, right? Can I immediately turn it into cash in my bank account so I can buy those eggs, diapers, and milk for my children? Once we answer that question, then things really start to open up. And that takes us into the second true use case of Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, which is payments, right?
Of course. Just before we move on to that, I've got one question for you before we jump into payments. And this is the idea that we're seeing all these different stable coins coming out recently. We have the Gemini dollar, we have the Circle dollar, we have True USD. So that theoretical, you know, single mom with the 3 kids, why would she take Bitcoin over a stable coin, as an example?
The answer is she doesn't really want Bitcoin. She wants something stable. They want USD. They want US dollar accounts, right? That's really what they want. So stable coins are very useful in that sense. We don't support stable coins or anything other than Bitcoin yet because, you know, we're kind of diehard Bitcoin maximalists over here because we believe the world needs a universal clearing layer, right? And Bitcoin accomplishes that. Anything else is a distraction. Now, I believe a stable coin can work. Well, you know, I mean, for these people, they need it. Like, they need something stable they can put their money in, right? So they definitely have a place in the ecosystem. I don't think we should dismiss them because people need it, right? It would really solve a problem in their lives.
Yeah. Well, the one thing, of course, too, is that Bitcoin is censorship resistant, and the stable coins aren't necessarily, if I remember correctly, don't kill me if I'm ever wrong on this, guys, but I'm pretty sure the Gemini dollar has a back door in it that lets them freeze it. So that, just think about Venezuela. If you got sanctions on your country and they say, "Ooh, that guy's connected to someone we don't like," call up the Winklevoss twins. Hey guys, can you just freeze that account? It's a problem.
Yeah,
Bitcoin doesn't have that.
That goes for all of them. Yeah, exactly. And same thing with Circle. Same thing with all of them. You know, they can even do the same thing with Tether, really, if they wanted to, right? And for that reason is why we still don't support stable coins, because on another layer of thinking, all these stable coins are really going to dilute away the effect of Bitcoin in a lot of sense and steal away a lot of its momentum. That's something that always hangs in the back of my mind as I think about things. So I'm sure there's a way to do it right. And when and if we figure it out, we'll definitely do it, just because we'd love to give that single mother a stable way to keep her money there, right? She would appreciate, you know, a 10x Lambo moon ride more than anyone else, I'm sure. However,
she probably also would not appreciate a 90% decrease in her overall wealth, you know, because for people who can have the luxury of hodling, sitting back and like, yeah, I live in New Zealand, everything's pretty chill with my life, but I'm not in that situation like, damn, I need to send my kids to school or I need to get my kids to the doctor and I don't have that money anymore. That's a real hard situation. That's when volatility can really work against you. But I don't imagine that a lot of these people are staying very long term, or do we have a lot of you know, Nigerian hodlers?
They're not really hodlers. No, they use the currency immediately, which I really, really like. So I just want to, okay, so let's take a step back for a second and let's talk about Africa in general, you know, just our perceptions. You know, whenever we talk about Africa, I immediately get objections. They're like, oh, these people don't even have, you know, 2 nickels to rub together. What are they going to do with crypto? I'm like, well, okay. Yes, there are people in that continent that, you know, are living in the bushes or something, and maybe they have a bone through their nose, but why do you think that's the entirety of the continent? No, there are a lot of smart, young, technically savvy people there that are working hard, that have money, that have value, that can work even harder, and they're always looking ways to improve their life. Real entrepreneurs.
That's it. Look at Lagos, look at Joburg. They're serious powerhouses economically.
Absolutely. And it's like this cheetah generation. They are absolutely amazing. I've never seen people so driven, you know, because like they are really in a war. It's not even a war against their own government. You see it as a war against like these hippos, right? The hippos are these, you know, fat, old, entrenched African aristocracy that just don't give a damn about the rest of them. And they know they're up against them. So any avenue that you give them, they will find a way. They will dive in. You don't have to sit there and convince them about Bitcoin and what it can do for them. If you just open the door for a split second, they'll literally leap through it. You know, it's beautiful to see. And they will build businesses out. They will hire their friends and family. They will educate them. And that's how real economies are built. This is how Bitcoin came into play as a social experiment. It's the same exact pattern that happened in Bitcoin. You're seeing it happen in all of Africa right now. Once they see the power of this, once they see they can actually build a business on top of it, everything changes.
It becomes very powerful. Right? It's unlocking the power, and it's unlocking people who have suffered under, you know, capital controls and all these different things. But let's move on to payments. That was part two. Let's move on to payments.
Yeah, so people are more to get into Bitcoin once they know the off ramps are, like what they can do with it, right? So here's the thing with once you have Bitcoin in your Paxful wallet, what can you do with it? All right, here's what I use it for. Number one, I can withdraw it to my bank account at any time, basically by selling it to someone, and they'll send the money straight to my bank. Great. So I just cashed out my Bitcoin for euros, USDs, whatever. And it isn't just my bank account they're willing to send it to. They're willing to send it to anyone's bank account. If I tell them, hey, send it to my mother in Egypt, or send it to my father over here, or send it to my friend in Cambodia, they'll do it as well. They're like, hey, I'll send the money. In fact, the beautiful thing is, when I put up that offer to sell my Bitcoin, I say, yeah, I want it in Indian rupees, actually. And an Indian guy will hit me up. He's got an Indian bank account, and it'll go instantly or the same exact day from his account to the other guy. In fact, usually, because, you know, we were going to be linking up bank accounts exactly soon, it'll be completely instant, right? So I can basically send money to friends and family, do remittance like that as well, right? And this is what I use it for all the time. I pay my bills with it. They shut down my European bank account here, right? Because they found out I was in the Bitcoin business, right? So now I can't.
Surprise!
I've lost 5 bank accounts, man. I've been banned from banks completely. Anyway, so if I want to pay a bill, if I want to pay my tailor in Germany or my lawyer in Hamburg or whatever, you know, again, I can do the same thing. Put up an offer to sell some Bitcoin and say, hey, you know, it's not sending it to me. You're sending it to my lawyer. Here's the invoice. He doesn't care. He's just buying Bitcoin and getting it for market rate, or even a little under if I want to move faster, or a little bit above. But they don't mind paying 1%, 2%, 3%, 4% to get Bitcoin immediately, right?
Mm-hmm. So, what are the average fees? I've heard that to send a bank transfer between, let's say, Johannesburg and Kinshasa in the Democratic Republic of Congo, right? Like that can be up to 16% that they charge. So how competitive on that 16% is Paxful?
It's inversely competitive, meaning that you won't pay 16%, you'll make 16% on there, depending. So, for example, here's an example of remittance, right? I have a friend. I'm actually going to visit my friends in Berlin today, and his girlfriend, Vicky, she's from Kenya. She's got family over there. If she wants to send 1,000 euros to Kenya, it costs her $1,200. She'll pay 200 euros to send 1,000 euros. It's very expensive to send from Germany to Kenya. It's Kenyan shillings, right? So I told her, hey, check out Paxful. And she looked at it, and we support M-Pesa. And I asked her, does your family over there, can they take money with M-Pesa? And we're like, yeah, sure. That's actually what they prefer, because they can spend it a lot easier. There's a lot more off-ramps for M-Pesa. I'm like, cool. I'll bring it up on Paxful. So the average rate is 17%. Meaning, if she sells 1,000 euros worth of Bitcoin on Paxful, and someone will buy that and they'll send money to M-Pesa, she will get a 17% bonus, meaning her mother over there will get $1,170 instead of getting $1,000. So instead of paying $1,200 to send $1,000, she pays 0, and her mother gets an extra $170.
That's amazing. So basically what you have is Bitcoin hungry markets that are underserved. So let's say Kenya, there's more demand basically going on than exists Bitcoin in the markets right now, because the Kenyan shilling is not the hottest currency going out there, and there's not a lot of on-ramps for it. So basically, if someone can get their hands on Bitcoin, they're willing to pay that kind of a premium. That's amazing.
Exactly. So what it really does is it takes the currency wars and it flips the tables in favor of the people. And it's the remittance at that point is not about saving money, you know, it's about making money. This is the thing that people can't get. It's like in the beginning when we were in Bitcoin, right? When we got in, like, I don't know, I got in 2013, everyone was saying, yeah, remittance is, Bitcoin is going to revolutionize remittance because it's going to save people money. No one wants to pay $10 to Western Union. And that made perfect sense to me. But then when you actually talk to people and you listen and see what's going on, they don't really mind being $10. They're just lucky that they're happy they can do it at all, not through the banks, right? So poor people are used to paying more for that. But you know, it's not the saving, it's the making of money. When people figure this out, they actually start to build real businesses on top of this, right? So let's keep talking about payments. I just want to give you guys a lot of examples, right? Because examples are what's really going to cement this in our minds, right?
Stories are what stick, Ray. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for example, let's take Africa again. So payments, okay. One guy, I remember it was like a year and a half ago when we were really like getting into the Nigerian market, and I was sitting there doing customer support, talking to all these Africans and Nigerians especially, really trying to understand what their money problems were. One guy, you know, and he wasn't some poor dude. He was, you know, he was well off. He had money, he had a bank account, but his bank limited him to $1,000 total that he could spend a month with his card. And that was high. He told me this was the highest limit there was in Nigeria. He said almost everyone else had $100 limit. Imagine all the plastic in your wallet being limited to $100 a month maximum. You're not buying an iPhone. You're not buying an Xbox. You're not buying anything hardly, right? If you can only spend $100 with that card a month. He got it up to 1,000. Lucky him. He still couldn't buy an iPhone X, right? And he wanted to buy it. So I told him, okay, cool. You know, do you have money in your Paxful wallet? And he said, yeah. And he said, so, okay, like, how can you buy? Is there any other way you can buy this iPhone X? And he's like, yeah, I have an Alipay account. Could buy it off AliExpress. I'm like, okay, check out these Alipay offers on Paxful. He found one. He's like, wait a minute, this guy will take my Bitcoin and give me plus 10% on Alipay. I'm like, yeah, try it out. He tried it out. Done. He got, I think, $1,200 sent to his Alipay account, and then from there he just bought the iPhone. Done. Not only did he buy an iPhone X, but he got it at a discount. He completely got around that capital control and got a huge deal. He was like, he couldn't believe it. Like, that's how our Nigerian user base grew, because it was people like this. I was just online. I'm there. I'm the CEO. I do customer support. I'm just talking with people, trying to understand what they're trying to do. And once they see this works, they just, you know, the light bulb goes off and they flip. And it's like, whoa, this changes everything. And then you get the word of mouth in Africa is absolutely huge. Paxful is spelled, you know, primarily 99.9% of there by word of mouth. It's not, you know, advertising and Google AdWords. It literally is all word of mouth. Here's another example, a little bit higher up the totem pole, right? In Africa, there's a huge, you know, base of entrepreneurs, and they do import-export. And one of the best and most lucrative import businesses is cars, right? You can buy a car in Detroit, send it to Lagos, and you can sell it for 500% profit. And that's what people were doing. However, this very lucrative business. Yeah, we are. We truly are. So what happened was, you know, this whole business got cut because the Nigerian government told the central bank, hey, you need to stop allowing these send-outs, you know, outside the country, because they wanted to hold on, because the government was under currency wars attack. Their currency was being rapidly, like, inflated, right? So they were losing money. So they wanted to hold on to the euros and dollars for themselves so they could buy, you know, I don't know, military equipment, medical supplies, whatever. But then these entrepreneurs, they couldn't pay this auction house. How are they going to convert their local money into USD if the central bank wouldn't do it for them anymore? So they were totally cut out. Their business stopped, right? A friend of mine in New York brought this to my attention. He ran a shipping company. And he was like, man, I used to do 30 million in Nigerian business every year, and now it's down to 8, and it's like rapidly. I'm like, really? So again, you know, we reached out to this community and we're like, hey guys, just you want to buy this Land Rover, this 92 Land Rover from Detroit Manhattan auction house? Okay, cool. Just load up, you know, $10,000 to your Paxful wallet as Bitcoin, right? And they did it. They bought it through bank transfer in Nigeria, right? That's usually the way they would do higher amounts, right? And there's a lot of those offers on Paxful. Once they had the money there, again, they just put up an offer and like, hey, I want to sell my Bitcoin for USD, right? And then when the guy starts to trade, it's an American guy, sees the offer, it's very competitive. He's like, okay, sure, let's do it. Give me your bank account. Nigerian guy doesn't have an American bank account. He gives him the invoice and says, hey, upload it to this auction house bank account. American guy's like, all right.
It doesn't matter to him, right?
It really doesn't. And it's not illegal either. He's just buying this guy a car. You know, he's like, all right, whatever, man. It's a perfectly legitimate transaction. He does it, boom. This guy now just bought the car. He's the official owner of the car. He does the same thing to pay the transport company as well. His business is restored, just like that. That's an example of
tools. Give people the tools. This is it. I don't think anyone out there in New Zealand or the United States or something, you know, except for extreme fringe examples, people can't really understand what it's like to have your money censored, to have your government put capital controls on and say, you can't send money there, or you can only send $100 a month or something like this. It's wild.
Yeah, these capital controls are completely outside of our realm of thinking. We don't have to deal with this. I mean, the examples are extreme in Africa. I mean, there's the 5 African countries. It's Senegal, Ivory Coast, Burkina Faso, I think New Guinea, and anyway, these 5 countries, right? They all use the franc, right? The English franc. I'm sorry, the French franc, right?
Yeah, the CFA West, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's not printed in these African countries. It's actually printed in Paris, right? And they send it over to them for a significant fee. And on top of that,
good old colonialism.
It's still going, and it gets better. It gets better. Not only do they charge them a fee for this, and of course they're printing the money. Okay, fine, charge them a fee. They can do it themselves. But they actually dictate to them how much they can possibly get in. So they keep the economy under control. They don't let that much, but there's a limit to how much of that they can order. So they artificially suppress their economies. But that's not the worst part. The worst part is each one of these 5 countries have a different version of the franc, so they can't even trade amongst each other. It's balkanization as well. It's
oh man,
this is what's happening today, and no one talks about this. It's,
you know, I actually made a video just on this whole idea about the idea that Africa needs currency competition, because we see basically massive inflation, and it's, you know, Zimbabwe is this total example, but it's happening everywhere. It's happening in Nigeria. Then you see the CFA. There's a central version and a west version, and those are, yeah, it's someone else is dictating the terms to people, right? There's capital controls and all this. We need real currency in Africa, but there's so many countries, so many barriers to cross. It's perfect. Bitcoin's perfect, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. And it's now it's just like once the local economy figures it out, it really happens locally. Nigeria is the biggest economy in Africa. So it's actually the perfect starting point for us. But, you know, the virus will spread. And that's our mission for this year, is to spread this to the rest of Africa and make it an international thing, like a continent-wide experiment. Now, this is kind of risky territory because, you know, this is what Muammar Gaddafi tried to do with his 144 tons of gold. I don't want to end up, you know, my car being blown up by a cruise missile and me being sodomized in the middle of the street with cameras and Hillary Clinton laughing at me. I don't know.
Oh, it's a bad way to go out, Ray.
It really is, man. But, you know, it's like whenever someone tries to help Africa, they usually end up in the worst possible way, especially the African leaders themselves. I've noticed. So, you know, we're treading lightly, but fuck it, dude. Like, someone's got to do this.
Someone's got to do it, man. Someone's got to be out there doing it. And Ray, I got a question. So, obviously, you know, Nigeria and Ghana and South Africa, Kenya, they're getting big into it. What are the least served, the least interested, the hardest markets to crack inside of Africa?
That would definitely be the hippos, right? It's the rich, successful people. Like, they are the worst in Africa or anywhere else. You don't even bother trying to talk to these people. It's like we're getting all these invites to Davos and whatnot. Like, why do we need to talk to those people? They don't need help and they don't want to hear it. Like, they're only out for control. So it's not even worth our time to deal with them. You know, it's like dealing with the right people is what it's all about. Our message is very focused, right? We have to deal with people that can immediately take it up. So let's go back to the use case. We talk about payments, right? I'll give you guys an example about e-commerce, right? So in Africa, again, I meet a lot of entrepreneurs. I met this one really beautiful girl. Her name was Bahira. She was making clothes that she made in Africa, and she was selling them online through her Instagram account. And I was like, okay, but where's your shopping cart? How do you charge people? It's like, oh, I don't have a shopping account. You can't pay Visa and MasterCard here. So this is the big thing. outside the United States and Europe, you cannot get a merchant account to sell stuff online. Why? Because you need a bank account for Visa and MasterCard to send the money to. And they only support, like American and European banks. To get one of those accounts, you need an American European corporation. So what a lot of entrepreneurs do, they'll fly to New York City, incorporate there, open up a bank account, apply for a merchant account, and then maybe they can do some business. But what about everyone else, right? So I told her, you don't have a merchant account. How are you doing this? How are you collecting money? And she said, oh, I have a friend who lives in New York. He's African. And I just give everyone his American bank account. And they send the money to his account. He converts it to her for local money, and he sends it from his local African account to hers. So what about all those other entrepreneurs that don't have that magical friend in New York with all those bank accounts, right? And that's what peer-to-peer finance is. It literally is a magical friend in every single country in the world, the bank account in every single country in the world. That'll collect money for you, pay bills for you, do whatever you need done, right? This is what peer-to-peer finance can do. Right? So now I showed her how to use Paxful. She can accept Bitcoin, and then from there she can turn the Bitcoin into local money, often on a bonus. Now the big hurdle there is like, she's like, oh, but none of my, the women buying from her, she sells mostly to African women living abroad, right? Or even like, like African American women, right? Like they don't really have ties back to Africa. They're just from there, right? So how do they collect the money, right? Like what do they actually do? So she hold on a second. I lost my track of thought right here. I'm a little spaced out right now. I haven't had my coffee, man.
You gotta have that coffee in the morning, man. So we're talking about the lady who's getting she's selling her garments, she's selling her clothes.
Yeah, the big thing is these women don't have Bitcoin. Well, they're normal people, right? So how does she get paid by them? So we introduced something called Pay with Paxful, and this actually happened 2 years ago, right? And it's cleared over like $250 million so far in transactions.
Wow!
Right? But now,
that's huge.
But now we're scaling. Yeah, so what it basically enables you to do is the merchant puts it on there. It's a little checkout widget like PayPal. They get Bitcoin, but the other person can pay with any one of 300 different payment methods: a gift card, bank, debit, credit, and basically one of our peers, one of our vendors will convert that to Bitcoin. The merchant will get Bitcoin to their wallet, and then from there they can just cash it out to their bank or as PayPal or Alipay or cash or whatever they want.
Or send it to their mom in the Philippines or whatever they want to do with it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we had to, we're working on this right now and upgrading this product because a lot like that merchant, that girl, she really isn't interested in, like, none of her users have Bitcoin. That's something we have to accept. We have to make it a lot easier for normal people to trade in Bitcoin. And in that system, Bitcoin is actually invisible, right? And that's something that's really hard for us to accept in cryptocurrency. We all wanted, Bitcoin to replace fiat completely, right? Like this was the dream in the beginning, right? And it was my dream too. But what I'm starting to see right now is that this is not the killer app of Bitcoin to replace fiat. Us libertarians, we all dream about this, but this is not the way forward. The way forward is not to replace fiat. The way forward is to make fiat actually usable amongst other forms of fiat in every possible container around the world with no borders. And that's what Bitcoin can do. It's a clearing layer between every possible form of fiat. And to make that work, you need a kind of universal translator, right? Between every form of value in the world, every form of fiat in every container, whether it's a gift card, an online wallet, cash, whatever it might be. And that's what Paxful is. It really is the killer app of Bitcoin. It doesn't have to be called Paxful. Paxful is just one small component of this peer-to-peer financial revolution. There's all these other peer-to-peer platforms as well. Local Bitcoins was the first one, right? And there's all these other ones popping up. So all of them are under this peer-to-peer financial umbrella. And this is really what Bitcoin is. This is the primary use case of Bitcoin. This is the real killer app of Bitcoin. It's peer-to-peer finance. We have to start thinking like this right now because, there's this old perception of, Bitcoin is going to replace fiat. In some respects, it's toxic when, brandished by the anarchists, but it's just not right. It's not the way it's going to be, guys. We're not going to replace fiat. Now, some people will just do all their business in Bitcoin, just like us crypto nerds in the industry, right? And there will become hyper-Bitcoin economies that will be appearing. Africa, I think, will take a little longer. I think it might happen in Latin America first, and we're going to have some big surprises for you guys in Latin America. Maybe I can give you guys. I don't want to get into it.
Yeah, don't. We'll get you back on when you want to release the secrets of your secret Venezuelan empire for Bitcoin.
Yeah, we've been working hard over there. We really want to help people. So that's going to happen as well. But we just have to change our thinking about what Bitcoin is and its true killer app. It's a clearing layer between every other form of value in the world. That's its utility. That's its power. We're not going to replace fiat. We're not going to replace the banks. So it's about inclusion. But get this, we're not just going to let all these poor people be included in the current financial system that's run by the banks. We're going to build our own financial system, our own peer-to-peer financial system, and we're going to include the banks in that. And that's the difference, right? It is about inclusion, but for the people of us, it's about empowerment. But we're going to let the banks join the party, if they want. They really have no choice.
Well, that's right. They won't have a choice, and that's the terms you want to be on when having that conversation. You guys don't actually have a choice, but you can come to the party if you want. And I think there's this real misconception that, I mean, look, banks have done a lot of bad stuff. They continue to do a lot of bad stuff because they operate in the dark and all these different things. But financial services, essentially, is what we're talking about here. Peer-to-peer finance, that's a financial service, right? Giving a loan to somebody, that's a financial service. You don't necessarily need that middleman as the bank, but you could have a bank being one of those providers using Bitcoin to do exactly everything you're doing here. It's just they've got more liquidity.
Absolutely. It's all about taking all the pieces and putting them in the right place, employing them for the betterment of humanity. If any of those pieces refuse to operate and they're like, no, these aren't, then things get clogged up. The flow gets clogged and you start having hemorrhaging, right? Or worse. Our job essentially is to restore the flow. So we talk about payments as a true use case. We talk about remittance as a true use case. We talk about e-commerce as a true use case and wealth preservation. And, we can talk a little bit more about remittance, but I think you guys get it. In remittance with Bitcoin and peer-to-peer finance, it's not about saving a few bucks. It's about making money. It's about using the arbitrage between currencies in favor of the people, right? Before, it was these banks that would use this arbitrage between currencies to scrape, people's skin a little more and take a few more pounds of flesh, right? Now it's the people that are making more money here. It's, this is what's amazing about it.
It turns the tables.
Completely. This to me is like the most amazing thing. When I figured this out, and it wasn't me figuring this out, it was just me like talking to people, all right, another story, right? Bear with me. So I met these two guys in New York. I bought, fish and over rice with them from their falafel kebab cart in New York City on 45th and 2nd, right? And there were two guys from Bangladesh, and I started telling them, asking them about, because I saw a line of people come up to them, like every, I think it was Saturday morning or something. And it was all these Bengali people that were giving them money. They weren't getting food, and these guys were.
Like, you guys got a good business going here. He's got people giving you money all the time.
Yeah, they actually ran a remittance business, right, from New York to Bangladesh. It's called Washington Express. Great name, right? And it was just them collecting money, and they had brothers back over there, and they would do conversion. They said, yeah, we charge them $7, for each amount. And none of them ever need to send more than like $200 at a time, right? And I was like, cool, all right, that works. So, you try to sell them on Bitcoin and remittance. They're like, why? We already have this system and it works, right? And a lot of people in countries like that have those kinds of systems. The people have found a way to do this themselves, right? Whether if there's no Western Union, they'll do it themselves for this market. They used to be called this kind of hawala system, right? It's a kind of ghetto version of that. But it is a kind of very peer-to-peer operation, right? So you can't really sell them on remittance, right? So instead I showed them Paxful, and I showed them what the rates were for Bitcoins in Bangladesh, right? And it was super high. It was just like no Bitcoin exchanges in Bangladesh. It was like 20 or 30%, something like that, right? So they saw that. They were like, really? And I was like, yeah, I'll prove it to you. So basically I put some Bitcoin in their account, and they sold it to a guy over there. And the guy sent money either to his mother's bank account or to his bank account over there. He made 20 to 30% profit off of that. And he was like, this is amazing. Like when he saw that it wasn't about remittance anymore, he actually went out and built an import-export business out of that. He used that to make money in Bangladesh, so like extra money. So instead of him sending money over there would cost him, he was making profit of 20 to 30%, using that to buy stuff, send it to America or Europe, whatever, sell that, and boom, he had a trade route. He had a real business. And then drop shippers will do the same exact thing on Paxful using gift cards as well. So, and then again, that feeds into the whole e-commerce, businesses side of the true use cases as well. So you see how each of these true use cases, everything from wealth preservation to payments to e-commerce to remittance, they all feed into each other and work together. And
they're complementary, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a whole ecosystem, and it happens organically. It happens naturally as a story almost, right? And the final use case to me is it's social good, social justice, right? So I'm going to Rwanda Sunday night, right? I'll be there Monday morning, and I'm going there for the opening of our second school, right? We just built a second school entirely funded by cryptocurrency, and it's not just a school, right? It's well, filtration,
amazing,
plumbing system. Solar power system as well, and of course a school, 2 schools actually that we built, and the kids have full uniforms, health insurance, we're paying the teachers. It's like a little village that we're building up over there, and it's entirely funded by cryptocurrency, right? And how did it happen? Again, I just sold some Bitcoins to a dude in Rwanda who bought them for Rwandan francs for another extra 10%, right, or 15%, whatever it was. Boom. It happened just like this. It happened almost like within a day, entirely funded in cryptocurrency using peer-to-peer finance. And that's like the last and final evolutionary step, I think, is when people start seeing, hey, cryptocurrency can actually like start to terraform the world, especially in regards to education. So some big surprises on that front soon. Built with Bitcoin, I think, is going to get a huge shot in the arm. I'm not going to say name names, but there's some pretty big names that are going to join us. Hopefully, God willing, they're going to meet us over there. And we're going to scale up the entire operation. So people really start to understand this is not just talk or a pipe dream. This is actually happening right now, and it's only just getting started.
Yeah, well, I mean, if anybody wants to see the pictures, you've shared pictures on your Twitter account. Do you have a web page already for Built with Bitcoin, or would they go to Paxful to find kind of what you guys have been doing?
It's not on Paxful. We don't. You can go to paxful.com/blog. We're not really very good at publicizing what we do here. We should be a lot more forward about that. But we're not. We're not press people, right? We're product guys. But you can go to. All right, just type "Built with Bitcoin" into Google. We should have a webpage about this. I apologize.
It's out there. It's out there.
Yeah, we don't think in terms of like press and stuff like that. Yeah, we need to hire.
You're just doing it, man. You're just like whatever. I mean, kids need a school. They get education.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. That's really, really great. I mean, that's the amazing kind of philanthropy, the giving back that makes an impact. That's not just 50 kids today. That's 50 kids next year, and the year after that, and the year after that, and that's got an impact without a doubt.
It's a structure that's going to be there forever, God willing. So, this is how we have to start thinking. And this people in crypto, they're starting to think like this. I'm very, very excited about what's happening this year. We're going to have some real big players joining us and helping people. And that's what crypto needs to be known for. When everyone else is just sitting on their ass talking, you see so many people talking about doing stuff in Africa and this and that, and you asked them, I asked one of our partners over there, Social Good, right? They're the guys that work with Zamzam Water and fund all these
great project, by the way, for anyone who wants to, give some Bitcoin away, either Built with Bitcoin or Zamzam Water Project, both excellent causes.
And they take all forms of crypto, by the way. I think even Craig Wright donated 25 G's worth of Bitcoin Cash.
Great.
So we'll take it from anyone. Whoever wants to donate, right? They'll turn it into a school, right? So
that's amazing.
What's beautiful
the kids aren't going to care where the school came from, and that's a great thing. My hat off to Craig for helping kids. So
yeah, exactly. Anyone can help. The doors are open for everyone to help here. So a lot of people talk about helping Africa, and when I asked the guy at Social Good, what actually happened to all these projects that he's like, well. Yeah, they all talk about it. They get a press release, and then when it's time for them to actually give the money, they're just crickets, man. And that's all. I was like, really? But I was reading about this, and he's like, yeah, it was just press.
They didn't do it. That's terrible. It's terrible. It's so cynical to use that as just like this good PR thing, and then not follow through on it, especially for these companies that have less money. It's crazy. Now.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of other companies and things, there's you're not the only game on the continent. Obviously, we've got BitPesa, we've got Binance, famously opened up their exchange in Uganda, local Bitcoins, of course, and different local exchanges like in South Africa and stuff. So do you see these as competitors?
Not at all. I mean, there's a limited market, but the market is so big, right? There's room for all of us. And for me personally, the way I see things is we need a kind of peer-to-peer financial fellowship, right? And we all need to come together just to rapidly, like, hyper Bitcoinized economies, right? We really need to, I think this year we're going to have our first peer-to-peer financial conference, right? We need to do it, right? Because I tell you, in peer-to-peer are the best players, the most interesting guys, the realest people. We need to bring all these guys together, and including the big exchanges like Binance, etc. I think there's room for all of us here to really collaborate and do some amazing stuff. And I promise you, there's gonna be some awesome press there, because these guys, a lot of them are motivated by press, and they're gonna do a better job of the press than we can, because we're not really good at that. But they're going to bring a lot of expertise, a lot more money to the entire endeavor. So I think we're going to see something awesome happen there. This is really what I've been hoping for, because we're not big enough to do this all by ourselves, right? We need a lot of help. We're just kicking this off, but it's about getting the entire community, all these big players, small players, medium-sized players together, and then we can rapidly terraform a continent that's been ravaged and ignored. Whenever you think about Africa, you think about poverty, disease, corruption, those three things, and that's it. You never hear anything else, right?
Not about innovation, not about people hungry to start businesses, not about the young entrepreneurs, and all the amazing things being developed. And that's all out there. It's part of it. It's part of it for sure.
Exactly. So this year is going to be awesome. I think Africa is going to get a major shot in the arm. The cheetahs are going to get a major power up, and we're going to see some amazing stuff happen in Africa this year, and Latin America, the entire emerging world. I think all of us in peer-to-peer finance can really come together to do this. The thing is, I just putting this out to the entire crypto space. Now I understand why people in crypto, peer-to-peer finance is still not really a thing. Everyone just talks about this cryptocurrency, that cryptocurrency, this price chart, these Elliott waves, it's all based on speculation, and just junk. It's not about the core of what we can do. It's not about peer-to-peer finance. That has to become our rallying cry. I just beseech everyone out there to pay closer attention to this. This is really what matters. This is why we're here. This is, peer-to-peer electronic cash, right? Started this whole revolution, right? Then we came together, this amazing community of people, and the greatest social experiment I think the world has ever seen. All these people willing to buy Bitcoin, sell Bitcoin, live off Bitcoin. And that's how I met my co-founder, right? Through that as well. That's a miracle in and of itself. And the third miracle is the rise of the sharing economy. 10 years ago, if I told you, hey, let's get into this strange guy's car, he's going to take us to my mother's house. You'd be like, man, get away. You crazy?
Or hey, I'm going to sleep at this dude's house I've never met, right?
Yeah, exactly. But now this is the thing. The sharing economy is the thing. And that's a miracle in itself. It's opened the way for people to share their bank accounts, share their Amazon gift card, share everything, right? These three miracles together are giving us a true window. These next 10 years will be the next. It's taken this long. It's taken Bitcoin 10 years to get to this point where, hey, finally some people have figured it out. We're not the Ethereum guys. They're super brilliant, but they're not focused on, in my opinion, where they should be focused on, right? We're not super brilliant like them, but we are focused on the right way. We do have the right model because we are paying attention to real people, and we're talking to them on a day-to-day basis. And everything we do, the question that we ask ourselves is, what difference is this going to make in the day-to-day life of a normal working person? This is what every politician in the world should be doing every day when they wake up. What am I going to do today that's going to make a day-to-day difference in life? They don't think about that.
No, they don't. They'd be the most popular politicians in the world if they did those things. Unfortunately, it's a whole different game. But actually, on the moment of politics, I've got two things I want to pick your brain about. One is the Nigerian election. We have Atiku Abubakar. I'm butchering his last name, but he is the opposition candidate. Have you heard about him? He's very pro cryptocurrency, and he's standing a pretty good chance of actually becoming the next president of Nigeria in the middle of February.
Yeah. So, we're very open to talking to regulators, very open to talking to the government. And we've let everyone in the country know this, right? And, when we first let everyone know this, in the beginning, it was just we got kind of flooded by requests for people. And they all ended up asking for a handout, right? They just wanted us to give them. I'm like, You know, we're doing this to try to help people, and if we give you, I would gladly give them money from my own pocket if I thought it was actually going to help, but that's not often the case. So, you know, politics in Africa, like politics anywhere, are very complex. You know, I mean, people say a lot of stuff, but I don't have really real information on these guys. So, if this fellow wants to talk and he wants to meet, I'm down to meet with him anytime and help his campaign if need be. But again, you know, I'd rather spend the bulk of my time dealing with the actual people, with the actual entrepreneurs, than these guys, until I know that it's like a legit deal. Because otherwise, you just end up wasting time and
just
wasting
talk,
everything.
right?
Really, yeah, you really got to be careful. I mean, I wish we could have, you know, a guy with, it'd be great, right? But I just have no knowledge about that. I'm sorry.
Well, I guess we'll see in the end. Now, another thing I wanted to ask you about is actually over in South Africa, they are proposing, they haven't passed these or anything yet, they're proposing new laws that would actually force wallets, exchanges, etc., to say who owns what Bitcoin address. Have you heard about this yet? And if so, are you worried that that might impact your business in South Africa? If it gets passed, of course.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're living in the era of compliance, right? So it's not just the United States, but all over the world, more and more corporations, like countries, are taking a look at cryptocurrency, and they're starting to, you know, sink their teeth into it a little bit. And we're okay with that. Look, we don't want people on Paxful that, you know, are trying to hide what they're doing. Right? If you want to do that, you can just use the blockchain and do whatever you need to do. You don't need to be with us in peer-to-peer finance. Peer-to-peer finance is for legitimate use cases, right? Our goal is not just to build an open financial system, right? Like COINBASE talks about building an open financial system, right? Okay, that's not enough, right? It has to be safe and open, and the safety has to come first. Because, you know, when people think about Africa, a lot of people think, oh, the Nigerian scammer, and yeah, there's a lot of fraud over there. It's true. However,
a lot of bad PR.
Most people are. A lot of bad PR. Most people are very, you know, they're good people. They're honest, right?
Of course.
If something is not safe, they don't want to go anywhere near it. They don't care if it is open, right? It's just an open, easier way to lose all your money. So it has to be safe and open. Regulation can bring safety. The problem is when regulation closes doors, right? The problem is when you tell that guy, hey, you can't buy that car anymore and restore your import business anymore. You can't collect money from the outside and bring it in to sell your clothes. You can't, you know, send money to your friends and family, where you can't pay this bill with this other guy's bank account. That's going to be from your bank account, but hey, I don't have a bank. When you start to close the doors, that's the problem. So we believe that you can be safe and open at the same time. So we're very open to working with them. I will say this, in Africa, people think, okay, so the African people are very open to KYC. They really do. They want to give you the documents. If they wish, in Nigeria, you cannot get a SIM card without giving your fingerprints, scanning.
Fingerprints, oh my gosh.
You know, seriously, you can't get a SIM card. A huge carrier there got fined because they weren't KYCing their people. So you can't even get a SIM card. I got a SIM card in Nigeria. I put both fingerprints, dude. They got both of them. That's
intense. That's intense. Whoa.
Yeah, it's true. And this is not just Nigeria. It's other places in Africa too. The Africans are cool with it. They're not criminals. They're not selling drugs and weapons. They just want to use their money. They just want to build a business. That's it. So we welcome it. Like, hey, you guys want to talk about like compliance? And let's do it in a way that's simple, efficient, and easy. And we're very open to those conversations.
And doesn't stifle innovation.
Exactly. The doors have to stay open, right? This is a legitimate ecosystem. You know, that's what once they know that, the regulators are cool with that. You know, they just want to make sure that things are, you know, number one, like regulators, it's like in America, they all talk about AML, money laundering. In Africa, it's more like a lot of them do want to make sure people aren't getting completely robbed, because it makes things very difficult for them. And you have these people just like stealing billions of dollars out of the country. No one wants that, right? So we can work together with them to do that. And the African people are for it because they want a safe place to do business. That's all they want, where the doors are open. At the end of the day, that's all they're asking for. And that's our mission. So yeah, it's going to work, man. It's going to work. Africa's ready for it, man. In so many ways, Africa's ahead of the West in that respect. You know, you don't have these wild anarchists there that are saying, "Oh, you know, I don't want anyone to have my ID." They're like, "Yeah, take it, man. Just let me do some business, please."
That's it. It's a totally different dynamic, and it's super fascinating. Ray, these have been some amazing insights. Thanks so much for coming out and taking the time today to share what's going on the front line of peer-to-peer finance. So thank you so much.
Exactly what it is, the front line of peer-to-peer finance. Thank you, Mr. Lark. You are, one of my favorite people in crypto, man. You really are awesome.
Thank you, Ray.